Thank you and welcome to the show for today. You are watching Perspectives and I am host Alana McLaughlin. This morning on the show I have Daniel Drumwright here discussing his background, his education, the work that he's done in the local community, and ultimately ways that we can support him. Daniel is setting up his life, some of the experiences that he has faced, some of the challenges that he has overcome, and ultimately the man that he is today is the man that we are highlighting and the man that we seek to support after learning about him in this episode. Daniel, thank you for coming and just thank you for sharing some time with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and it's great to be here.
Thank you. Now, I want to take this about 5 minutes to talk about your early life, early childhood, those baby Daniel years. Set that up for me.
Well, I'm an 80s baby. Born and raised from Nashville. I grew up in a two-parent household. It was 3 siblings. My older brother, who is Pastor Daniel Drumwright at the Temple Church, just a few miles from here. He was always more of a father figure because he's 9 years older than me. And then we have my younger brother, who was the wild child. And so being the middle child, even at that, time and that bigger gap between my oldest and me, there was, I learned a lot about sharing and how, I grew up in a family where structure was very important. And so I remember at a younger age, just being very structured: baseball, football, sports, school, band, dance, all of these things played a really important part of my life, and it's helped make me the person I am today.
Now I want to talk about kind of the impact that mom and dad had on you in that childhood. What were they doing? Kind of what was that relationship with them like?
So my mom and dad were childhood sweethearts, and so they grew together quite a bit. And so having a similar background, they brought same functionality, same type of thought on life and raising your children. So it made for some very obvious things that we understood that were expected of us. The expectations were set very early. And so from there, I think growing up, me and my brothers always knew to reach for the sky, shoot for the clouds, and settle for the mountains.
Now I love that. I'm taking that one home with me.
Yeah, please do.
Now take me through just some of the experiences you had as a child. We can even jump the gun a bit, and I'd like to talk about just finding out about your leukemia diagnosis and just kind of how that affected the course of your life kind of early on.
So to kind of feed into that, so I was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 13. So that always, again, structure, being very much on top of my health, that was always a really important part of my life. My dad, who was a lean manufacturing professional, traveled quite a bit. My mother was a nurse, and she knew so much about diabetes. And of course, when you're diagnosed at that age, you don't know. You think you're going to be different, and nothing really changed. I mean, I had to change when I ate. I lost a bunch of weight and grew a little bit. So I went from this, chubby, cute, fat kid to this, to this young man that just had to learn how to strategize and put things in perspective.
Yes, sir.
And also just understand how to prioritize my health. The leukemia diagnosis came later on in life, and I know we'll get a little bit deeper into it, but the leukemia diagnosis has helped really me as a human and connect to others, because I understand now, like, dealing with any type of health challenge, it's a part of life. We're all going to go through something, whether it's health, whether it's circumstance, whether it's family. And so being able to deal with my own health struggles, both as a child and now as an adult, have helped me just stay connected and grounded.
And I want to talk, before getting actually into just kind of life with these diagnoses and kind of how life changed for you or shifted, I want to talk about really finding these things out. I want to know specifically at 13, did you find out about your diabetes through a routine kind of checkup, or kind of tell me about that experience? So
very interesting. My mother, again, very aware of the signs and symptoms of diabetes. I was outside playing quite a bit, normal kid. I started to grow a little bit, and I started to lose a lot of weight. I was a very husky kid, just to say the least. And she started noticing I was using the bathroom a lot, running in and out, just drinking water, drink, Kool-Aid, whatever it was. And she said, we need to go get you checked. And I didn't feel any different, and lo and behold, I had diabetes, and my blood sugar wasn't terribly high. I was juvenile onset, so it was a balance. I still created insulin, so my body would break down some of the, the sugars and things in my bloodstream, just not enough for a typical person. So her understanding what to look for really helped me at a young age get ahead of all the potential problems that you see a lot of people face early on with their diagnosis.
And we're going to come back in our second segment, really just talking about life as a teenager, kind of dealing with this, that responsibility that comes with kind of dealing with a medical diagnosis like this. We're talking about that your leukemia diagnosis, the impact that it has had, turning all that pain into power, ultimately publishing Revision, and we're just going to talk about ways that we can support you here in Nashville, Daniel. And I encourage our viewers to tune into the second segment of Perspectives, where Daniel and I will return to discuss just urban work here in Nashville. We're talking about his life story and ways that we can support him in his endeavors. Of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I am host Alana McLaughlin. You are watching Perspectives. This morning on the show, I have Daniel Drumwright here discussing turning pain into power. He's discussing his author and penmanship. He's discussing his career, kind of some of the childhood experiences and adult experiences that have shaped him, and ultimately the ways that we can support him and the kind of impact that he wants to leave on Nashville communities. In our first segment, Daniel set up who he was, where he was from, just kind of some family and sibling experiences, and we're coming back in talking about kind of teenage life through adult life for Daniel. We're talking about just some of those pivotal experiences, the ways that they have shaped him, and ultimately the impact that he seeks to leave on Tennessee. We're coming right back in. We've just left off, you're 13 years old and finding out about diabetes, and I want you to take me through ages 13 to 30. I want you to tell me what life looked like. I see that smile. And kind of tell me what life looked like, especially being a teenager who kind of has to take special care to keep, their health up. And take me through high school, through becoming a grown man, as we could say, and what that experience looked like.
Honestly, it wasn't much different than anybody else's. It required me to be obviously more structured with what I ate. It obviously required me to be on top of my health and go to the doctor more often than most kids.
Yes, sir.
But I played sports. I was a standout athlete. I played football and baseball. Those were my two top sports. I went into college. I was on the football team at Tennessee State University for about a season. I won't say I played because I had an academic scholarship. My mother passed away my senior year of high school, which created a transition into adulthood that really, it just presented a lot of other challenges.
Yes, sir.
And so as I moved through my later teen years and early adulthood, diabetes just became another part of my life, just something that I had to deal with heads on. And didn't really change the way I traveled, the way I functioned. Just, I just had to be mindful of what I put in my body, take my medicine, of course, go to my doctor's visits, and just be sure that, the things that I'm doing, especially working out and just lifestyle, it complemented everything that I was trying to do.
Yes, sir. Now tell me, kind of adulthood, you've hit age 30, and tell me about just some of the experiences around that age 30 and what life looked like around that point.
So life was good. I had initially worked at the Tennessee Lottery, which used to be here in Metro Center, and now it is since then moved. But I worked for the lottery, and then shortly before my 30th birthday, actually my 29th, excuse me, I was hired in the Nashville Mayor's office under Carl Dean. So I worked in the office in neighborhoods. Again, just moving throughout life. Life was good. I mean, I'm making moves for the future. I was planning. I had always had a background in music.
Yes,
so
sir.
Music, video, things like that were a passion of mine. I worked out. I was a lab rat. I went to the gym 6 to 7 days a week. Was really on top of my diabetes, but what happened was I started to have some issues seeing out of my right eye. Went to a doctor. They said there was inflammation on my retinas that they assumed was due to diabetes, and I had some small procedures done. And lo and behold, after about a month and a half, I started losing all my sight. So I woke up one morning, a few days before New Year's 2015, totally blind.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So I mean, devastating way to find out. Going into a new year, ready to still, accomplish all these things in a relationship with a beautiful woman. My then girlfriend, who is now my wife, took me to the eye doctor who had done the procedures and said, I remember he said, we don't know what's going on, but we know it's got to be something going on with your blood because this doesn't happen. The issues that you had were very minor. And lo and behold, I had gone to the doctor a few weeks previous, done blood work, saw an elevated white blood cell count, and then after I went blind, went to an oncologist and found out I had leukemia. So I dealt with two really big hits to my health within the span of like a couple of weeks. Being able to deal with diabetes was never an issue, but you know, you can't work out to eat enough to combat leukemia.
Yes,
and
sir.
unfortunately, it led me to where I was then and now empowered me to this day.
Daniel, I have no words. That's the first thing I can say. I don't know that I've heard something that powerful in a very long time. I have to ask, and if you're not comfortable talking about that, that's all right. But I'd like to know. I mean, that first day waking up and not being able to see. Tell me just what immediately ran through your head.
Honestly, you always say, I don't know how I would respond if something that traumatic happened to me. But when it happens, you really start to think about all the people that mean something to you, and you want to protect, you want to preserve. You go into preservation mode.
Yes,
so
sir.
I woke up next to my then girlfriend, now wife. Realized I couldn't see after I tried to get up to go to the bathroom and hit my shoulder on the opening of the door and realized that I had no vision. And so I just wanted to stay calm. I let her know what was going on. Of course, she was really concerned and started crying, and we just tried to move forward from there, inform my family a little bit later so that we could just prepare for the worst and also hope for the best.
Daniel, now through going to different doctor's visits, I want you to kind of take me through life after receiving the leukemia diagnosis. I want you to take me through some of the surgeries that you've undergone throughout this process, leading up to kind of present day and the inspiration behind writing Revision.
So my memoir revision, it details how those unforeseen leukemia diagnosis and minor eye procedures really take me to the point that I am totally blind, and then the story then takes you on the roller coaster of, the several eye procedures that I've had, the physical and mental and emotional debilitation that I went through, especially my mental health.
Yes, sir.
And then the spiritual questions that I had. God, why me? Why am I in this position? And then just doubts about my once promising future. To this date, I've had 17 eye surgeries and procedures. During the portion of the book, which is about a 2-year span,
yes, sir.
I had about 5 or 6. I never got any sight back in my right eye. I see kind of what I call golden eye. If you've seen 007 and how it starts kind of looking down the gun hole. And that's kind of how I say I really don't have much peripheral. But what I do see, I see relatively well. I just have to be careful. When I walked in the studio, I had to watch out for all those cords over there because I didn't want to trip and bust my butt. So I didn't want to make a scene before I got on the scene. So, it's been that type of adjustment. And so through my story, what it shows you is that through all of these ups and downs, not only did I have to get through that stuff, I knew I had the support system, even though it was hard for me to accept.
Yes,
but
sir.
once I got to a certain point through the journey, which was almost a year later, it was about accepting the challenges that I knew that was going to, be ahead of me.
Yes,
because all I wanted was to go back to being normal. That's all I wanted. And I knew that was never going to happen.
And normal kind of looks different now.
It's a new normal. New normal does not mean abnormal
Yes,
or
sir.
non-normal, but I do realize that because I have to adjust, and people don't know. I mean, if you look at me, and that's what I take a lot of pride in.
Yes,
when
sir.
you think of a person that's been totally blind, who has leukemia, who has diabetes for almost 30 years of their life, you don't think of somebody that looks like me.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I try to represent more than anything.
And we're going to come back in our final segment just talking about how you have turned that pain into power. We're going to talk about how you stand tall, you hold your head high. Despite what you've gone through, you don't look like what you've been through. And I encourage our viewers to tune in to the final segment of this powerful story where Daniel and I will be discussing his background, his work, turning pain into power, his book Revision, and ultimately ways that we can support him. Segment of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I am host Alana McLaughlin, and you are watching Perspectives. This morning on the show, I have Daniel Drumwright sharing his story, telling about his background, his education, telling just some of the experiences that he has gone through, talking about his book Revision, and ultimately sharing ways that we as supporters, as Nashvilleians, can connect with him and support him. In our first 2 segments, Daniel set up just some of the experiences that he has gone through, from diabetes to leukemia to multiple eye surgeries to just kind of learning a new normal for his life. And we're talking about turning that pain into power. We're going to talk about his book Revision. We're going to talk about just the ways that we can support him in this final segment. Take me through the inspiration behind even writing a book.
So it actually started off as music. Again, I have a background in music. It was always my passion. And so as I was sitting there recovering, I didn't have the ability just to use my phone as normal.
Yes, sir.
Once I started getting some sight back in my left eye, I realized realized that it was never going to be what I thought it was. And so I kind of went from this high, like, oh, I'm getting right back, to this plummet again. And I just had to figure out how to start to remedy myself and make myself feel normal. So
Yes,
I
sir.
started writing and putting thoughts on paper and recording video postings. And there would be anything from me just talking and being hopeful, from me just yelling to the heavens like, God, why me? And so after I was able to get out of that season of my life and start on the path of just getting back to what is considered normal for anyone, trying to get back to work because I was out of work for 2 years, starting a family, my then girlfriend, my now wife, you know, we decided that we're going to move through this and we're going to get married. And so I started to be inspired. I was hired at the Juvenile Justice Center by Judge Sheila Calloway. And during that time, I was able to start connecting with people again. And when people ask me, I have a pair of glasses I don't have with me that they are literally Coke bottles. They are literally Coke bottles. And they would say, you know, what's going on with your site? And, you know, I tell them what I've been through, and they're like amazed. And they're like, you should write a book. And I was like, I'm kind of writing some music related stuff, but I don't know if I'm going to make it a book. After I started reviewing all of the recordings, the writings, I realized that I was kind of telling my story in an abstract way. So I started putting these pieces of my story together, and I started to realize, like, you know, how powerful it started to be, and also how it took me back into those moments, which are kind of scary, but they were also really confirming of what I've gone through, what I am able to go through, and what my potential really is, because where some people feel like there's a ceiling, I really don't feel like that way anymore.
I don't want to give too much of the book away, but I want to talk about just some of the contents of it. I specifically want to ask you about dealing with your mental health throughout, even writing the book, throughout these diagnoses. Tell me about learning to kind of love life again, learning to kind of love yourself, your surroundings again.
So I spent a lot of time by myself in the recovery process. You know, I had friends and family who would visit, but a lot of people have to get back to normalcy, right? Going back to work, going on to their daily normal routines. And because I was not able to obviously drive, and also because I'm just still in recovery mode, eye surgeries take quite a bit of time, especially when it deals with the retina, because the retina is brain matter, and so it doesn't repair itself. So I had to, in a lot of ways, just start to connect either with, you know, whatever was around me, and just gravitating towards different outlets. Again, music, writing, and things of that nature, but also just trying to tap in to where my inner strength was. When you're challenged in that way, it either makes you plummet, which I did, but then if you get to a point where you don't want to fall anymore, you get back on solid ground, it starts to become an opportunity for you to try to rise up. And so I'm one of those people, I'm stubborn. My wife will call me, so I say I'm determined, my wife says I'm stubborn, so let me say that. But it gave me the ability to say, you know, let's just see how determined and stubborn that I actually am. And so I just started really trying to rehabilitate myself in any way that I can. I did go seek help. I did go speak to a therapist, and I definitely believe that just talking to someone who wasn't connected to the situation helped me bring a lot of different perspective and points to the things that I was feeling, because people want you to feel good that are connected to you. They want you to get over, they want you to get past all the problems that you're dealing with. They are not there to help you solve your problems. They're there to make you reflect and just come to terms and try to figure out how to re-energize and reboot and keep going forward.
Right. And kind of with that same determination that we're talking about, could you say that you applied that to today's Agenda LLC?
Yes, so today's Agenda LLC was really spawned from my younger brother and I's relationship, because we always bonded over music.
Yes, sir.
And so today's agenda is actually a line from, it started off a line from Notorious B.I.G., but it really started to make more emphasis when I went through everything that I went through. Today's agenda. What is important today? We make plans for the future. We hold ourselves back because of what we did in the past. Am I worthy? What's important today, because you only have today. Tomorrow's not promised. So what it allowed me to do, today's Agenda LLC was just the background of how I set up revision. I wanted revision to have something that there was foundation on, and after that there's going to be building blocks. So I know that revision is not it for me. It's public speaking, it's engaging with the community, it's encouraging others. I don't like to say I'm an example, I like to say I'm an encourager. Everyone needs to be encouraged in some way, form, or fashion, and if it takes someone who's gone through what I've gone through to encourage others, I think that's exactly what God has me here for.
And you just said something beautiful. That's exactly what God has you for. Did you ever kind of go through a period of questioning your purpose, questioning kind of God's role in your life throughout that?
Absolutely. Prior to me actually getting any real sight back, I actually went to a low vision specialist about 7 months after all of this started. And there was the doctor, he left me with a scripture, and I'd heard it several times in my life, and it never meant any more than it did at that moment. He said, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord.
Plans for good.
Yes. And so I always held on to that, but I often question, like, what are your plans, God? Like, what am I doing here? Why is it that I'm going through this? I worked out all the time. I ate right. I did the things to take care of my diabetes. Why is it that an unforeseen leukemia diagnosis leads me down this path? Well, you see me here today. I've been able to touch the lives of a lot of different people. I've connected with my brother Ty and my brother Dre. They have a program called Ollie Lifestyle, and they are my family. And so I've been able to connect with them and just continue to build off of all of the work that they've done and everything that I feel like is important with my message.
And Daniel, in this last about 3 minutes of the segment, I want you to just give me one big quote, give our viewers this quote, just one big takeaway from your story, from listening to you and the experiences you've had. What is one thing that you'd like to just leave with our viewers? It's
not what happens, it's how you respond. Your response in life is going to dictate how much potential, how much further you can go in life. When bad things happen to you, excuse me, we often start to doubt ourselves. We often start to question why. And sometimes you have to ask, am I strong enough to deal with that? You obviously are, because you're going through it. So keep responding positively. And even if it takes, a negative response, always counter that. It's nothing wrong with feeling bad. It's nothing wrong with questioning, but you got to keep moving forward. Baby steps, if anything. Giant leaps is what we want, but if we get those baby steps, they will start to add up.
Thank you for that, Daniel. Even every word that you just said, I just hung on to, like, thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. But seriously, I know that many viewers that are just listening to this right now needed to hear that. I know that I needed to hear that. And just kind of thank you for being that beacon of hope, that reminder that despite what you go through, it is not what you're going through. It is truly how you respond, how you pull yourself back up, and kind of how you get through it. Use this about last minute to plug yourself in. I want website, social media, how people can connect with you.
So again, we've talked about Revision. Revision can be purchased, and I do have a copy for you online. Right here you go. Revision is available on all platforms. I've signed it for you. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook. You can type my name in, Daniel Drumwright. Drumwright on the beat. I still go by that. I've had that for a long time. But I have my website is danieldrumwright.com. Yeah, I'm on all platforms, YouTube, but I engage more on Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, I would love for you to go out and purchase the book. Follow me, stay engaged, understand that, if you're going through something, look for hope in any way that you can.
Thank you, Daniel. And with all that being said, I don't even have to give an outro. Thank you for just spending your time and sharing your story into our community. Thank you for the opportunity to share one more story that shapes our wonderful community. Good morning.